Good morning. This is Inspiring Careers. I'm John Waters, and today I'm with a gentleman that I've known for probably 20 years, and he still looks as young as he did then. Gavin Lawless.
Hey, John.
How are you going? Okay?
I'm very good, thanks.
So we've known each other for many years. In fact, I started helping you at Express Data, of all things, and then we were lucky enough to help you through your journey. Tell us about the new gig. This is the most exciting thing that's happened to you in a while.
Yeah, it is exciting, John. So I'm the Australian CEO of a company called Chillisoft.
Yes.
Literally only for a couple of months. Chillisoft is a New Zealand-based company. Have done an outstanding job in New Zealand, have got a great name, great reputation. They're a cybersecurity distribution business.
Yes.
Been around for 26 years, but have never really had a significant presence in Australia. We've had a presence in Australia for 10 years in terms of a trading entity, but it's primarily been fly in, fly out of New Zealand.
Yes.
And I've joined the business as a CEO with the intention of growing the business significantly as a major shareholder in the business. So it is a very exciting opportunity.
Yeah. Now, you are a gentleman that I would describe as a tech entrepreneur. You're probably more humble than that, and you call yourself a business builder. But give everybody an overview of what do you do when you start a distributor?
Yeah, it's a great process, an interesting one, and for me, it's to some degree a soft entry because whilst we establishing the business here in Australia, and the intention is to grow significantly, I have a significant foundation with the New Zealand business being so successful. And having, as I said, great reputation, lots of very strong vendor relationships, and have provided me now with the Australian business with an unbelievable foundation. So, but in the end, a distribution business is successful by the vendors that you represent. And so, the building of the business now is really all about networking, meeting up with as many vendors as I can, giving them an understanding as to what we can do for them, and using my contacts and networks in order to grow a great foundation for the business.
And saying that, I remember, and I'm going back many years ago, you and I having a chat when we first met about the fact that ED were a fantastic value-added distributor. So therefore, what's different now in distribution? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just curious. I mean, what is going to differentiate you guys from your competition? Yeah,
so for us, it's all about helping vendors scale. So our business is in New Zealand, and now here is successful because we help fast-growing vendors scale. So invariably, when you're at the relatively early stage of your journey as a vendor, and you're relatively new in Australia, you don't have an extensive team. You don't have a marketing team. You don't have BDRs potentially. You might only have one tech person. You certainly don't have partner recruitment people. There's a whole bunch of people who you just don't have.
Yeah.
And so the value add in our business is all about giving those vendors arms and legs and helping them to scale. So we effectively become an extension of their organization.
Yeah.
And that's the major difference. The one main thing that we are incredibly good at, and our New Zealand business has really led the way for value-add distribution is technical capability. So pre-sales is to some degree now it's table stakes. You have to do that. So for us, it's more about post-sales implementation, helping partners, so providing partners with resources for implementation, doing POCs, POVs, demonstrations, all that sort of stuff. So we're very, very strong in our technical capability, and that is a very huge differentiator for our business.
Yeah, and hey, and probably against my better judgment, I advised you years ago to go into a vendor. You were very successful in a couple of vendors, but you keep going back to running businesses. I'm curious, what do you like doing in a business, and what do you like doing for you? And then we can talk about your development, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, John, because I have worked for a couple of vendors, and whenever I've done that, as you say, I've gone back to distribution. The thing I like about distribution is it's like a mini MBA every week.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's very diverse. And what I've found my particular style of working, I suppose, and my particular personality, I don't do well when I'm doing one particular thing.
Okay.
I get bored.
Yeah. Yeah.
And generally speaking, when you're at a vendor, you've got a fairly, closed swim lane, which you've sort of got to stick in, right? And that works for a lot of people, and they do very, very well. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Because I like 7 or 8 swim lanes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just love that about distribution. It is a serious business. It is a business where the margins are relatively small, which means you've got to be very good at what you do to make money. Because if you don't, you can come unstuck pretty quickly. So I love that. I love the diversity. I love the challenge.
In saying that, I mean, it's an exercise in patience, I would have thought, because distribution businesses just don't grow to 100. You did a remarkable job previously in a couple of companies, but have you guys got a nice business plan and good realistic expectations going forward, hey?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, John. I mean, with any business, any startup, you have to take a long-term plan. So we've got a 5-year plan, which is a very realistic plan. Clearly, the first year or two, you have different expectations to, year 3, 4, and 5. Once you've sort of established and got a bit of a foundation and got some foundational vendors and got some run rate and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, and I'm sure it'll come again in a topic of conversation today. But to be successful, you have to play the long game.
Yeah,
you have to take a long-term approach.
Yeah.
And certainly I think we've got a good plan which balances being aggressive but being realistic.
Yeah. Talking of playing a long game, we did show a little clip earlier, and I think you're such a humble man. I don't want you to be embarrassed because you were a wonderful sports player, wonderful rugby player. Tell us about your rugby career, and then tell us how you've used that to take forward into the business community.
Yeah, it feels like a million years ago now, but
well, you still look good. I was showing the kids the other night on YouTube, and I said, "This lad, you still look the same. You look fantastic." Yeah.
Thanks, John. Yeah, so I mean, I played rugby in an interesting stage. It was the end of amateurism and the beginning of professionalism. I sort of straddled that era. So when I started playing, we were amateurs, and so you had to have a career. And I played Super Rugby in South Africa. I played club rugby in France. I played for South African Barbarians. I made the South African A side. I didn't play Test rugby for the Springboks. I probably did almost everything else other than play for the Springboks. So I had a great career, which I really enjoyed. But I was, I suppose, fortunate enough that because I straddled those professional amateur era, I had to have a career.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, when I left school, as a 17-year-old, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew I wanted to play sport.
Yes.
But I had to have a career outside of sport.
That's interesting because, the involvement becoming professional, you probably couldn't go to uni therefore at the time because you were so committed to your rugby. So you were able to do rugby, but were you building a career at the same time, even working part-time and doing your own personal study, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly could be a student and play professional rugby, and there were a lot of students who played, well, when I started off, it was still amateur, right? So you were a student, you played rugby, or you were working and you played rugby.
Yes.
Either one. So you certainly could do both. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school. And so I actually, did my military service in South Africa, did a couple of years in the army, thought that would give me time to work things out. Still had no idea what I wanted to do after that.
I'm ignorant here, and excuse my ignorance. You joined the army, and for our watchers, was that conscription? What was the background there?
Yeah, so national service. So we had to do in those days 2 years of compulsory national service, which you could choose to do either when you left school or when you finished studying at uni.
Yes.
So because I didn't know what to do or what to study, I chose to go to the army straight away. I was 17 years old, did a couple of years in the army. I mean, it fundamentally changes you as a person doing that, which was great. But I sort of came out of that and, still had to make this decision around career.
Well, let's go back to the Army. What did you learn from the Army that you might even still be able to use today?
So I mean, the Army is an unbelievable training ground. And I don't know that, certainly from a compulsory military service back in the day, I don't know that anybody comes out of that saying they really enjoyed the Army. But it's an unbelievable training ground and breeding ground, and especially going in as a 17-year-old boy. I mean, you come out as a 19-year-old. I mean,
But you would have been in with lads that were 30, 40, 50, etc.
Well,
not young kids, but all different age groups.
Lots and lots of different environments and different backgrounds, and so you learn a huge amount. I'd say probably one of the biggest thing you learn in the Army. A big takeaway for me is how important the team is.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll talk a bit about sport as we go on here. But what you learn in the Army in terms of teamwork is that you have to succeed as a team. There's no individual, as a unit or a team or a battalion, whatever it might be. And trying to work out how you perform at your best, how you deliver an outstanding result as an individual, but always contributing to the team and the team success is really critical. And probably more so than in sport, because obviously I'm sure we'll talk a bit about teamwork in sport, but
the Army's life critical as
well.
Depending on the situation that you're in.
I never went into combat or never went to the border and did all that sort of stuff. But in the Army, you're always training for that potential, right? So they're preparing you for that potential. And so the things you learn are really, really important. And I mean, there's a couple of, I won't go into detail today because obviously we don't have a lot of time, but I remember going in there as an individual, and getting the crap knocked out of me because, I was achieving. I thought, I was, running around and doing things and, coming first or whatever it might be. And you get pulled back because you go, no. What's important is the team has to cross the line together.
Yes.
And it's irrelevant if you finish there and someone's out the back, whatever. So you kind of learn pretty quickly how to achieve in a team environment, which is obviously critical.
See, that's interesting because one of the questions I was going to ask you about the corporate world is that I've always enjoyed your company and you're a very polite man, but you're a very strong character. So how do you manage as a leader? Because you've always seemed to have a good balance. We've got great empathy with people. Going back to the sport, you're the fullback. Everybody's giving you all the accolades. How did you sort of create that empathy with everybody else in the team so that they felt you were all equal, as it were? And have you taken that into your business life?
Yeah, it's a good point. Empathy is for me is so important as a leader.
Yeah.
There's so many lessons you take from sport, but one of the things I think I've also taken away is that teamwork,
yes.
And being able to succeed as a team. And I think one thing you realize when you see very successful coaches in the sporting world is their strength is being able to assimilate and to get to understand every individual. I mean, every team is a bunch of very different individuals in the sporting world and in the corporate world.
Yes.
And as a leader, being able to understand those individuals, understand how to get the best out of those individuals, understand when they're not performing, why they're not performing, and being able to have conversations and get out of them, what's going on, what's happening at home, what's distracting you, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So that, demands a huge amount of empathy. And I think that's really, really critical for a leader, and something, I certainly, try and use all the time.
Well, I've been lucky enough, as I said, to know you for many years, having placed a lot of people with you, and I'm certainly not been sycophantic. Everybody's enjoyed working for you. Have you improved and grown as a leader?
If you're not improving and growing as a leader, it's I don't think you can be a good leader.
Yeah.
The thing that I've found in leadership as well is, especially, you speak about distribution and my career, and one of the things that I've been fortunate enough to do is work for and being heavily involved in fast-growing companies.
Yes.
and companies that are scaling quickly. And those companies are always in a state of change. So change is constant. And so, you really need to apply change management principles almost on a daily basis. And probably the most critical thing about change management is being able to communicate effectively. And then if you go one step further, communication, if you think communication is one way, you're not communicating, right?
Yes.
All you're doing is you talking and you throwing out orders, right? So communication has to be two ways. And if communication is truly two ways, you've got to be able to listen effectively and get inputs from people and understand what's happening on the ground and use those learnings sometimes from very junior people in improving strategy and improving plans, improving potentially your own leadership style, whatever it might be. So I believe in just constantly learning. It just never stops.
How do you do that, either formally or informally? Do you do a lot of reading? What do you do for your own personal development? I'm going to say professionally. I mean, you always keep yourself in good nick physically, so you've got a pretty disciplined regime. But what do you do for your own learning, both intellectually and professionally?
Yeah, John. Yeah, for me, I think I've got a learning appetite, I suppose. I've read a huge amount over the years. It was interesting when I came out of playing really competitive rugby and then was literally working full time. To some degree, I'd missed out a bit because obviously I had a significant amount of time when I was not working, where I was playing rugby and training and everything else, right? So you lose quite a bit of time in your professional working career for that learning because you're doing other stuff. And so, when I was sort of 29, 30, when I stopped playing, to some degree I had to catch up a bit. And so I took to reading a huge amount. And I suppose most of the really classical business books that a lot of people read and are very informative and very effective. I for many years subscribed to the Harvard Business Review and read that voraciously for years. Just having an appetite for learning and reading. That's really how I've I suppose kept up to date and really just looked at constantly improving and just learning.
How do you keep up, therefore, with the technology? Because in your game, you need to be ahead of the boat. I would have thought in terms of, working out what's the next trends in cyber, who are the vendors that we need to... How do you do that, both in the general technology world and also specifically in the world of cyber? How do you keep up with everything there?
Yeah, I think fortunately in our career, it's not that difficult to keep up. Okay. There's so many opportunities to find information. There's so many really good journals. There's so many very good, websites. There's a lot of information around. Obviously, LinkedIn provides a whole bunch of information, contacts. So I don't think it's that difficult to find the content and to find what's happening. But you've got to have the desire, right? You've got to go looking. It's not just going to come to you, right? So it's about looking for it and working it out. And then, of course, the next challenge is trying to, I suppose, take potential great technology and potential great companies and to make sure that it's commercially viable.
Yes, because sometimes you could be in too early in the product life cycle.
Well, you could be too early. And also, as we know, many technology companies come out that are really great technology that for whatever reason just don't succeed because maybe there's something the founder's done, potentially they don't want to take enough capital into the business, but whatever it might be. They might not get the VC funding. Another competitor might come out at the same time. There's always some reason. And so it's not that easy actually picking the right technology, the right vendor, and the one that's going to give you the right commercial return. So there's obviously a bit of homework that has to go into that. And to some degree, maybe a bit of luck. I think in sport and business, luck always comes in and has some part to play. But if you do your homework and do your research and you're thorough, you obviously you make the chances of your success much higher.
So when you're talking about sourcing vendors, let's talk about sourcing people. What do you look for in a potential employee?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll sort of answer it in a roundabout way and use the sporting analogies as I generally do, right, for obvious reasons. One of the things I learned in my sporting career was that it's not always the most talented person who succeeds in sport. And certainly I know from my experience growing up with a bunch of people, in my early part of my career playing with a whole bunch of people, there's a lot of individuals who I would have thought would have had much better careers than me. I mean, I certainly wasn't the most talented. And I'm sure you'll find I know you'll find with so many sportsmen around the world at playing at the elite level, the ones that really succeed are the ones that, yes, have some talent, but they have a bunch of other things that they do much better than anybody else. They've got an unbelievably high work ethic. They have got a huge appetite to win. They're very competitive. They've got huge focus, whatever. There's a whole bunch of things that really stand them apart from anybody else. They're training on Christmas Day. They're training on Easter. They're training, they're training when no one else trains. And so if you convert that to the business world, I try and look for people who just got a great work ethic,
yes,
who really want to succeed, who have got an appetite for learning, who want to go the extra mile, who honest, hardworking people. And generally speaking, that's what I try and find.
But so let me ask you this question then. Do you pay any attention to the resume?
Yeah, of course you have to. Of course you have to. And obviously experience and knowledge and what they've done before. And depending on the role, right? If it's a junior role, it probably matters less. If it's a more senior role, it obviously matters a lot more, right? The background and the knowledge of the market and knowledge of products and everything. Of course that plays a role. But I would rather take somebody with slightly less experience who just has those other qualities.
Yes.
I'd rather take somebody a bit younger who's hungry and motivated and has got desire and a great work ethic and is just really, really wants the job,
yes,
right? Versus somebody who might have another 5 more years experience and, maybe doesn't show as many of those characteristics.
Well, I can certainly vouch for the fact that you have given a lot of young people a go and they've all turned out to be very thankful, etc. Let me ask you this. What advice would you give young people, say yourself at 17 or 18, what advice would you give anybody getting into our industry, or even at 22, coming out of uni possibly?
I think the biggest thing is to understand that it's a journey.
Yeah,
it's a massive ultra marathon, and you have to play the long game. The people that are successful over a period of time, they all play the long game, right? They don't necessarily focus on getting the next promotion in the first 6 months or whatever it might be. The only thing you can control in your career is what you do every single day.
Yeah.
You can't control timing. You can't control when your next promotion is going to be. You can't control, what your company does. If you're in a more junior position, you can't control those things. You can control your work ethic, your desire to win, to contribute, your timekeeping, your how responsible you are. All that you can control. That. So focus on what you can control, and play the long game. And in my experience, those people who just consistently do those things have an outweighed success. And as I say, luck does play a part, but over a 20, 30, 40-year career, luck doesn't play a part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It might give you some ebbs and flows and ups and downs, different stages of your career, but in the long term, it's all about what you put in and how much you put in.
Yeah. So I'm tempted to ask you then, what do you need to improve on?
Look, I think you've always got to improve. We always have to look at improving ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'd say, as I think you mentioned earlier, right? I've always been a fairly serious, some people call me scary in some scenarios, but I think it's as much as possible being that empathetic leader, that empathetic person, listening as much as possible, trying to extract as much information as I possibly can from everybody around me. Doesn't matter how junior or senior they are. I think that's just constant, and I think for myself is, I'll probably you never totally get to the destination. It's always a journey. But I'd say those are the things that I probably have to improve on all the time.
What are you doing away from work? Are you finding any new interests as you get? I'm not going to say you get older because I'm older than you, but what do you do for you? Is there anything that you do a little bit unique where you give yourself a little bit of quality time? Sadly, because I don't booze these days, I spend Saturday morning in Bunnings, for example, but I shouldn't really say that. I'm supposed to be an interesting guy. What do you do for you?
Look, for me, there's outside of work, there's a few things. As I said, with regards to my career, I like to have probably 6 or 7 different swim lanes to operate in, and so I don't like doing one particular thing. Outside of work, I mean, I love exercising, so I'll do a whole bunch of different things. I'll do some ocean swimming. I'll play a bit of tennis. I'll do a bit of gym. I'll play a bit of golf. I'll do a whole bunch of stuff, but just trying to be active, as much as possible. I think it's very important to have a strong family unit.
Yes,
certainly. Yes. So I dedicate as much time as I can to my family.
Does your young lady play football? Were you telling me one of the girls plays football?
Yeah, my eldest daughter plays good football, soccer, which she loves. Spend as much time with them, I mean, I'm very proud of my family and certainly my wife, and I've got a beautiful wife and 3 beautiful daughters, and sort of what they've all achieved. And it's just great to try and spend as much time as I can. One of the great things about being at Chillisoft now, and we just recently moved back to Sydney, is I don't have to travel as much.
Yes.
Because I was doing a lot of travel from Melbourne to Sydney. So it gives me time to spend more time with my family, which is great. So a combination of those things, John, trying to stay healthy, trying to spend some time with my family. Obviously, there's always time when you've got to dedicate to work outside of, standard working hours. So combination of things.
No, it's interesting because I've got George on later on. I get involved in a lot more mentoring programs for the younger generation now. Are you getting the chance to do any of that? Because you get so much to offer. Hey, what are you doing to sort of help other people in our industry, if you like?
Yeah, I suppose there's 2 parts there. One is the formal mentoring. And I've done a bit of that lately, which has been great. It's really rewarding. So seeing somebody really grow over a good 2-3 year period of time and seeing them change as human beings and seeing them just change the outlook on work and is really rewarding. I've done that a couple of times on a formal basis, and then of course there's the informal part, which is the just taking an interest in people. If you go back to something you said earlier about being empathetic. The thing about empathy is that you actually care about people.
Yes.
It's not just doing it because you have to. You actually care about individuals and how they achieve and their progress in their career. And so I consider myself to be a very empathetic leader, and so I do really care about people.
Yes.
And I actually care about their success, and I care about their well-being, and I care about how they're achieving and everything else. And so it gives you the opportunity to mentor, guide, give advice if you can, if they ask. And I love doing that. And I would say, generally speaking, in my roles that I've had a lot of opportunity to do that, which has been great.
Would you see yourself going on a couple of boards? You've got such a diverse background in terms of your business skills and your leadership skills. I'm curious as to what you would see for you down the track. I mean, we all have to work. I was just talking to Tony earlier. I mean, just because we're a certain age doesn't mean we pull up stumps. You're very, very smart. You've got a huge intellect. You need to keep yourself going. But what would you see yourself doing for you down the track?
Yeah, I mean, boards for me are some interest. I am on one small board at the moment.
Oh, is that excuse my ignorance, is it a charity or is it a commercial organisation?
No, it's a commercial organisation, yeah. Commercial organisation, a small business which is great, and I'm really enjoying that and providing a lot of value, which is awesome. I wouldn't want to go down the board path of larger companies where you can have less impact.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
You're providing more of an administrative duty almost, versus when you're on a small company board, you can have a real impact and you can actually add some real value, and you to some degree can actually get into in the trenches.
Yes.
Which is what I enjoy. So on one board, I'd certainly be happy to, and would like to do more over the years. But it's another part of giving back, which I enjoy.
Just on that, with your daughter, are you involved in that? Are you doing any sporting coaching?
No, just don't have time, John.
Yeah,
I did some coaching sort of before I had my second daughter. A number of years ago, I was coaching rugby at a club called Eastwood in Sydney.
Yes.
I did a bit of sports coaching for the girls when they were playing sort of club sport when I could.
Yes.
When I had times in my life when I wasn't traveling as much. But it's just become too hard with work and with travel.
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely delighted with our chat. I've known you for 20 years, and I've been trying to get this man on the show since we started, and we finally got him on today. I will also add, he's a very humble man because he still holds a record in the Super 12, which I think now would be Super 16 possibly. Gavin Lawless scored 50 points in one game, which is what that clip was at the start of the show. And I'm going to be his PR manager today because he's a very humble individual. Have you enjoyed that?
Have I enjoyed the plug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoyed the show?
Yeah, it's good, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck to Gav in his career with Chillisoft. I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us today. Join us next time on Inspiring Careers. I am John Waters, and we shall see you soon. Okay, bye.